Love Actually is a movie. Holy crap.
Love Actually? Actually Love.
Love Actually. Super tight. It's so cool to see. Theme above all else. I wish there was another movie like it.
Every little bit of the story, different stories are there to serve one thing.
It's anthology, it's montage-y. A monumental task tying all of this stuff together. It's such a unique movie. So many different plot lines just kind of happening separate of each other but interwoven and connected. The freaking transitions, I really do respect how it's structured so well.
This is always one of the movies I watch during Christmas time. I always love it.
So much of it wears its heart on its sleeve. The acting, it's campy, yet it's real.
Actually star-studded.
They got everybody that's famous. It's like, ooh, like Leo DiCaprio. The sets just varied.
It's relatable. You've been there.
We get to basically tour this world just loosely strung together by the simple string that is the idea of love. It's labeled as a rom-com. This movie shines more when it's about romance, and not even romance, but just love, actually.
He blew.
He is ecstatic.
He's in the loop.
This ridiculous obsession with love!
I really enjoy it.
In some ways, it is delightfully early 2000s and dreadfully early 2000s. Lots of fat jokes. Jesus, thankfully, more on the delightful side. Her cell phone is the Nokia theme.
They make a whole point about 9/11.
It was very weird to get thrown back into that.
It's my dying wish that you watch this movie.
I can't believe that I hadn't seen it up to this point. Go watch it. Absolutely do it. Very wholesome, very sweet. What a great way to cap off the year. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Narratives and Nonsense, where friends talking about random and recent stories, newsworthy and otherwise. I'm Jordan, and this boy here is
Ting 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 ting. Ting 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 ting.
Your onion rings. So this is our boy, our friend, our dear 5-string Connor. Yeet. So
Also, don't actually call me 5-string Connor.
Don't do it. It's a trap. We're it's yours. You gotta own it. You gotta rock it.
No,
you and your onion rings.
Bad. That is my branding. Is that it's bad.
So we're talking about a fairly old movie. 2003.
I guess we're more than fairly old then.
We are. 2003, Love Actually, which is a questionably Christmas movie. Christmas happens, and other things are happening.
Holiday season movie.
We're in the festive spirit, and then we also have some news and some random holidays and all that jazz. So, Connor, how was your week?
Well, it's been such a long week. So much has transpired since our last recording in this long week of ours that we definitely had.
Yes, the full week, not pre-recorded, because
it snowed
Christmas
last night, a somewhat serious amount. So, like the only person from my team at work.
It was
which was great for my
6 to 8 inches. Giggity.
It was terrifying.
There was a lot of snow.
It was pretty easy driving. There's no one on the road. But yeah, other than that, it's just been I've been taking some rest days from climbing, so I've just been mad chilling.
Ugh. Yeah, that's fair.
Some of my family went to the mall to do some shopping in Sitch and go see my grandparents on both sides.
Which mall? Flatirons?
Yeah. The mall,
Oh,
the mall.
Westminster Mall.
Sure.
The one they tore down.
Yes, the Westminster Mall.
Yeah. I got you. It's like West Virginia.
It's actually real. Anyway.
Yeah.
It'll be cool. I get to see my grandparents for Christmas full set, so that'll be neat.
Sweet. Goodness, for this last week. I mean, work stuff. I know.
You did not leave me roses by the bed.
I did not.
So you, in fact, do not care.
It's all about the surprise. See, you're expecting it. I won't go. Turn the light on. So work happened. Yeah, there we go. We didn't miss up any of those lyrics. we're about to celebrate a year of doing this. We started this last year, this 2022, with a goal and a mission.
New Year's resolution.
Yes, we're like, we need an excuse to hang out, and we made a podcast. And
is it just a thing of getting older? You're like, God, I have to like justify this somehow, some kind of output. Down to that point.
a little bit. And the other thing that's kind of fun is we've been pretty consistent. I'm pretty proud of that, and I hope that we continue to do so into the new year as well. Absolutely. So that's super dope. And then, goodness, what else for this week? In the coming hours, there will be Christmas celebrations had as far as stuff, but it will have happened in the past for you listening.
No, it'll have happened last night.
Yeah. And then for me, two nights prior, because my Christmas plans. Yeah. So we had to move our Christmas plan stuff up because my mom is a nurse. She's working Christmas Day proper. She has worked.
She's a boss.
For you guys, has worked Christmas Day proper. So we did Christmas Eve's Eve is our Christmas Eve, and then Christmas Eve was our Christmas Day. And then it was so funny because I literally got a call earlier today and yesterday, both. My mom's like, hey, so for Christmas Day, Dad was asking what like all the different kids are doing on Christmas Day. And I'm like, well, I'm going to have a day off because our Christmas is happens prior to Christmas, so I'm just gonna have a normal day off and then have the holidays on the other days. And she's like, well, you know what, if you don't have plans, you might have to go hang out with Dad or whatnot, so we'll see if that happens. He may just be playing Archage and I'll just go, all right, cool, and then eat food at their house and then leave. I don't know.
Listen to a lot of Coldplay and
there you go. And then same thing with my grandma, except the thing that's funnier with my grandma is she has plans for Christmas Day to go visit a neighbor and watch football at the neighbors. So like she's not she's like, so are you gonna be lonely Christmas? I'm like, no, I'm getting my fill of the family festive spirit. I'm just getting a day.
How could I ever not be okay?
Like, yeah, I'm chilling. Like I can nap, I can edit whatever I'm talking about now. Like yeah. So that was a whole fun like figuring out navigation. Good old holiday season. It's not even drama, it's just like logistics.
People love me and want me around. It's so inconvenient.
God, oh no. Yeah. And yeah, so that's my week. It's been a good week though. We've had some fun. And then yeah, it snowed. If you want to get into like the weather report of our wonderful existence here in Colorado. We had earlier, it was negative 17 degrees when I looked at the thermometer for outside. I was just like, oh, good. Lots of snow, but theoretically this next week it'll be like 50s to 60s. So, good old Colorado winter.
It ebbs and it flows.
Yeah, it's here and it's gone. Yeah. Otherwise, we have some good news. We had a shorter, smaller time span, and boy howdy, it made researching weird because normally it's
what do you mean shorter way? No, this bit's not dead yet.
So it made researching good news
very easy, having this whole week that we had
this wonderful holiday festive
No, this bit isn't dead.
Yeah. So things that have happened. Or are happening. I mean, the world's a circle, time loop, wibbly wobbly.
The world is a sphere.
You're right. Yes. So, first thing on the block is they are putting up a statue in Roanoke, if I said it right, Virginia. Yes, and
the real Virginia. The one that actually
true
exists.
Virginia Prime, as if it's a number or a first
to be
or
prime,
optimist.
That would mean there's another. Why it's just Virginia, and that's why it's just Virginia. Like there's North Dakota and South Dakota because there are two of those.
And it's about to get
Virginia's
more.
just Virginia, so why would there ever be another thing?
And just Virginia is about to get more just because we are apparently going to be getting a statue of Henrietta Lacks. Now, this is a name that not very many people know about, myself included. I had to research into it. I was very curious. She has inadvertently had a very massive, important role in medical science. So back in the 50s, it was common practice to not have full disclosure of bodily things or need consent for collecting biopsy sample things and what you do with cell or tissue after the fact. That practice has since gone by the wayside, but it was something that was commonplace back in the day. And there was a woman who unfortunately ended up passing for cervical cancer, but she went in, the gynecologist managed to get some of the cells, and these cancerous cells were immortal cells. It's something where so long as you give them the bare necessities, they don't die off, they multiply, they just keep going, and
they're like druids.
Yeah, there you go. So the thing that is insane with it is these cells, later named HeLa cells for HE and then LA for Henrietta Lacks.
I just thought because they're HeLa cells,
I mean, they are also HeLa cells. Yeah, I know.
Kids.
That early 2000s lingo. Yeah. These cells, it's gotten to the... I say it's gotten to the point. This is something where it's like a staple of medical science. When we do testing on human biology, there's only certain strains of cells that they have to be immortalized, for lack of a better description, in order for us to have consistent tests results and just having a consistent factor between. It was used for the first polio vaccines. It was used for, going as recently as Zika virus and even some COVID testing. This is something that it's so widely integrated in how we do science now, that it's kind of terrifyingly fascinating. One of the more interesting stats on it is that these cells, there are more of these cells that have been made and used than were in Henrietta Lacks's actual body, because it's become so widespread as a science staple. So with that, absolutely controversial. It is something where it's we're using science of things that have happened in the past, and those that are descended from Henrietta are, they're involved in some of the decision making now. There's a whole council of people that are part of that informative process. There's also some litigation legal things for people that are trying to profit off of it, when it was kind of this, it was made open source, but kind of unethically for what was the time versus now. It's a whole thing, but regardless,
she's at least getting some dues.
Yeah, her contribution to science is terrifyingly encompassing. It's massive, honestly. So it's something where they're putting up a statue in her honor and in her hometown of Roanoke. Right now, it's something where we've announced what the design should look like. It's her in a coat doing one of these kind of things. And then we're supposed to get an unveiling in October of this coming year. So that was pretty cool. The other thing is, it would be replacing a statue of Robert E. Lee that was taken down during rioting in 2020.
Yeah.
So
nice.
Yeah, lots of things about it, but it was a very just, you kept digging and it just got more and more whoa, what? So for those that don't know, HeLa cells are hella cool and honor Henrietta Lacks. Going from that to another cool inspirational figure of sorts. There's Hadi Chapin, if I pronounce it. It's one of those, I think. It is an Iranian Mr. Olympia, the big muscles. He was top 5 for Mr. Olympia for 3 years, which I think is just like nuts to think about. Like, he's been doing this for a while.
Yeah.
Before that, he was doing other things as well. He finally won this last year, and he dedicated his win to the women in Iran, as well as trying to just spread a message of love and trying to overcome racism and like, hey, you be who you can be, like don't hate others for what they are, kind of thing. That was something that was really cool. And then he's also announced that he is a film about his story, where it's the Generation Iron Persia is what it's called. And that it's more specifically about him and his time trying to get a visa into the US in 2019, like within like the days leading up to being in a competition. Was when he got the visa and was allowed in and able to do his thing. So that was something that was also very cool as far as just an individual, and then crediting things beyond what that individual has directly done, and hopefully being like inspirational or a bigger message beyond that. Going really big, for 3M, they have now set a deadline for 2025 to stop using PFAs. These are forever chemicals. It's like polyfluorides and whatnot. It's those aren't the only ones, but there's multiple chemicals where they just linger past whatever their intended direct use is, and it's been linked with a lot of different bad health effects, like low birth rates, just as one example. As far as that decision, 3M is a massive company. Things that use PFAs are about like 3% of what they do, of like their full revenue, and that's $1.3 billion going by what the article was saying. Part of it was prompted from some external pressure, but it's cool to see them get a little bit ahead. So there's been some litigation stuff because, again, you start getting involved with health things that's coming out of California. But likewise, over in the EU, in Europe, there's a couple of countries that are looking at putting in restrictions on PFAs and their use. It's not in place as of yet, but they're looking at putting it in this next month. So we'll see where that goes. But it's somewhat refreshing to kind of see them almost jump the gun a little bit. I say jump the gun, like they're making a stance a little bit sooner than maybe we would expect from giant companies. So that was something that was kind of cool. Other things happening here in the States, there are now 10 states that have banned animal testing for cosmetics. And that's New York, California, Louisiana, New Jersey, Maine, Hawaii, Nevada, Illinois, and Maryland. If I counted that all right.
Big spread.
Yeah, there's a big spread. New York is the latest to join in this. A lot of the justification with it is that we now have we have sufficient testing alternatives with human cells and computer modeling that we don't need to use animal testing. It's also kind of
animal testing is bad. Okay.
It's also like the fact that we're doing this for cosmetics is what I think is very horrifying yet interesting. Is like you would, in order to test rats, it would be something where they're forcibly restrained and like have things put in their eyes, or they're force fed certain things to see what the effects are. I mean, there's all these things that back before would be something that we don't really have another way to figure this stuff out. But now that we have alternatives, it makes sense to kind of transition into those. It's also something that seems to be picking up steam in either place, because it's something where you have, very blue versus very red. It seems like there's a pretty broad spectrum of places that are down for doing this, and there was actually a proposal in Congress proper that hasn't pushed through, but to
like an actual federal level.
Yeah,
possibly.
to bring it on for all of the states. So it's curious to see that trend continue, and hopefully we'll see something come of it. We're already seeing happening, in these different states. So that was something that was very refreshing to see, and let's go animals. Woo! Going from that to another New
Animals
York
are
thing.
good. Okay.
Going from that to another thing in New York, it's now signed into law by the governor, Kathy Hochul, where they are required, much like we have here in Colorado, they are now required to list salary ranges on employing like Indeed posts or what have you. If you're applying for a job, you'll know what, loosely speaking, that pay range would be.
Yeah, the range.
Yeah, and there's a couple of reasons for it. One thing is it's a competitive practice that is to the benefit of the employees that would be applying, but it also is being used in an effort to reduce any pay gaps that exist, or increasing transparency with the hiring process and eliminate some discriminatory factors, because there's always the idea that both guys versus gals, or what race you are, will influence what kind of pay you get. So by seeing what the ranges are, you get a very clear sense of what this will be. Yeah, exactly. And that was announced as being signed. The bill's signed, sealed, delivered as of just this last Wednesday. And then the last thing to come out of New York, which is slightly outside the scope of the week, but you know what? It's pretty cool. In Central Park, they had the world's largest menorah kickoff for Hanukkah. It is 36 feet tall. It is Guinness World Record, signed, sealed, delivered. Woo! And we also had the mayor speak at the event, as well as, forgive the pronunciation, Gilad Erdan. He's the Israeli ambassador to the UN.
Okay. Yeah.
And a big part of that was...
We've been to the UN building.
We have. Yeah, boy. It was something where he was there very emphatically speaking about how they're fighting against anti-Semitism, and they're not alone in fighting anti-Semitism, especially with the more recent waves that have been going about, and they're really shining a light in the world. So very nice, very wholesome, etc., etc.
And hey, you're wrong. I know. Bold takes. Bold
takes here. Only the boldest. Going from that holiday, celebratory festive spirit, to the next one. Today, 12/26, not any other day earlier than that. There are a number of wonderful holidays. All of them very much within the same realm of festive spirit. We have the first one, which I think was it just was a really cool name. I looked into it. It is the Synaxis of the Mother of God. Oh my. That was for that's out for Greece, and it's Synaxis, think like synagogue. Synaxis means like a gathering of sorts. So it's kind of the celebration of the Mother Mary. Very Christmas related. Going from that to Junkanoo, which is in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. This has been celebrated since 1708, and we think it's named after the given name for the chieftain at that time, which was John Canoe. But it's kind of like a celebratory folk hero thing. We still very much celebrate the same festive, love each other type ideas, but it had a very interesting origin in that he was a soldier on behalf of the Germans, and then ended up fighting against Europeans in his hometown kind of thing. So that was something that was really cool. There's Kwanzaa, which Pan-African celebration, African-American, started in the 60s during the Civil Rights Movement. And then we also have Day of Goodwill out in South Africa. And then the like weirder ones, we have Winer's Day, which is for all you fine folks that wanted to whine about, I don't know if it's your families or your Christmas presents or what. Here's your day to do it. And then it's also Candy Cane Day, which straight out of the pepperminty holiday spirit.
Little suggestion I've heard of. You get the like candy canes with like that are like straws. You stick that in a lemon and then drink the juice through it.
In a lemon?
Mm-hmm.
Huh. I've never heard that.
Yeah, I learned about it just the other night. Haven't tried it yet, so let us know in the comments.
I was like, is it great?
Or
is it
stick a candy cane in your hot chocolate?
I do that. That slaps. I am such a sucker for peppermint hot chocolate. It's disgusting. Cocoa.
Just don't use one of those weird fruit candy canes, like blueberry.
Yeah,
it might be
like the blue, green, brown, ones.
Yeah.
Those, no, that's fair. So going from
you're into that, don't judging.
So going from that to the meat and taters of the episode, Love Actually is a movie. Holy crap.
Yes, it's an anthology.
It's a feature film made of a bunch of short films just slapped together like my D&D plotting. Is the way that I would love to put it. Honestly, it is super tight. Okay, so broad spectrum. 2003 movie. In some ways, it is delightfully early 2000s and dreadfully early 2000s. Thankfully, more on the delightful side than dreadful. So that's good. It makes sense that a lot of people say that this is like one of their favorite Christmas movies, one of their favorite like classic movies that they go to. It's such a very unique movie. When it comes to the plot, it's anthology, it's montage-y, where you just have so many different plot lines just kind of happening separate of each other but interwoven and connected. I mean, it's something else. Going into like some of the filmmaking aspects, the cast is phenomenal. Like they got
actually star-studded.
They got everybody that's famous and said, "Hi, you're one of the roles now. There you go." I will say,
Neeson's, your Rowan Atkinson's, your Colin Firth.
Yeah, Colin Firth, Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson. Like it's everybody. Andrew Lincoln. Like it's nuts. I will say, while the cast is star-studded, expansive, talented, the acting done by them in some places, 10 out of 10, they crush it. It's very fun and very wholesome and very heartwarming or emotionally investing. In some places, the acting is a little wonk. It's one of those things where, to me, I feel like this movie, so much of it wears its heart on its sleeve. It's labeled as a rom-com, and I think that this movie shines more when it's about romance, and not even romance, but just love, actually, rather than the comedy. Like, some of the comedy is there, and I think that it's just a tool to exist rather than...
It's not like what the movie is focused around.
No. And sometimes in the scenes where there is comedy, I frankly don't even care that there's comedy. Like... And part of it might be some of it's the age of the movie and it's a little bit dated. In some of its comedic things. Like there's a I wouldn't say the entire movie is this way, but there is definitely a lot of fat shading.
Yeah,
fat shaming.
Serious like punching down for no reason at all, and you're just
it's ruthless. for
no reason.
It's like
undeserved in every sense of the term. Like
it's like, here's two lines just out of nowhere. It almost feels like,
whoa.
Yeah, it's very weird in that sense. And And then some things, ironically, I think have aged really well. It has one of the stories is about the Prime Minister of Britain meeting with the President of the United States. They have like this antagonistic relationship that I think's funnier now than it was back when it came out. And then, all right. So avoiding spoilers, cinematography, it does its job. Yeah. Frankly, the monumental task of tying all of this stuff together, I feel like there's not room for creative cinematography, because otherwise it would just be super jarring to do something like insane.
I think you get it in there, but it's just not what the focus was.
No,
they do a good job of like internally being consistent. If people are at the thing they're supposed to be at, whether it's like before or after.
Yeah, and adding to that, and people being where they need to be, the sets, like it even though this feels like a bunch of multiple smaller pieces of stories that are all stitched together, the world feels very real, because the places that they go and the actions that they're doing are super just I don't know if lived in's the right word. It just varied.
It's like, relatable. You've been there. There's a lot of different things that can speak to different people.
Like going, it's some of it's very like simple, straightforward things. There's bars. There's movies. There's like the school play, the pier by the dock or whatever. Just walking through the street at night. Car sets, mansions, regular houses, apartment buildings, like
a bar in Wisconsin.
Yeah, the just everywhere. There's so many different sets and places, and the fact that we get to basically tour this world that is just loosely strung together by the simple string that is the idea of love in its many forms, is just fascinating. It really is such a creative, interesting movie. I wish that there was another movie like it, where it's almost like it's theme first above all else.
Yeah, everything is there to kind of, every little bit of the story, different stories are there to serve one thing, instead of like I love like VHS or Trick or Treat, but I don't know if they have that same kind of like all working and merging together to like reinforce a certain theme or idea.
Yeah, and it's so well done, multifaceted. So yeah, getting into the plot, the way that we're going to do it is kind of tackling what the individual stories are. I highly recommend going and seeing this movie. It's super good.
We're doing our best approximation there.
Yeah. It really is something where every story just flows.
9 different like plots going on. So.
And again, like, well, I can't give enough shout out and express my level of just being impressed with this movie. With the freaking transitions between stories was so seamless a lot of the time. Like, it almost got to the point where it became this like the whack-a-mole game of me like watching to see, okay, what's the next transition going to be, because holy crap, it was so well done. So go watch it, absolutely do it, so great. Plots, so going down the list, the first like subplot I think is probably the most connected to the others, and also the most indirectly connected to everything else. And that's Billy Mack.
Yeah.
Who, he's this like radio star, meant to be a hot shot, like well past his prime, kind of just like
a rock star trying to like get it back.
Yeah. He's there for the paycheck. He doesn't really care.
It's kind of a mean curmudgeon behind it all. Yeah.
Some of his curmudgeonly behavior I thought was funny. Some of it I was just like, all right, you're a child in like a 80-year-old's body. Maybe not that old, but you know what I mean. Like
right, proper jerk.
Yes, just a proper twat, arse, what have you. His story summed up is him kind of like shitting on the idea of love, and especially Christmas, because they like re-recorded. It starts with them like re-recording his song about love and replacing the word love with Christmas, like Christmas is in the air instead of love is in the air. A lot of this
movie has like a similar like bummer vibe to like Charlie Brown is like the only thing I can kind of like get it to.
Yeah, oh man, so this guy's quite the character, and every time that he comes on, he's doing something very crass. Do I think it's funny all the time? I don't know. I'd maybe say like 50% of the time I think it's funny. Comedy's super subjective, so if you like crass humor, I feel like it went too on the crass and not in like the, I don't know, maybe the setup, and maybe it's just because it's so compacted in this grander piece of a medium that it didn't come off the way that I would have maybe wanted it to, or it wasn't.
I do think it can very much get to that like theater one act thing of like, we have like 5 of these, so we need to like smash this into a caricature so you can recognize it quickly. And
yeah, that's a great way to put it. Yeah. And ultimately, I almost was just outright, I hate this character and this story. Like I could just be happier with the movie didn't have it if it isn't for like the last scene where it's him and like his producer of however many years. He's supposed to be like, he's celebrating his record selling record for Christmas album, whatever. Like he's blowing away charts and whatnot.
He makes a promise at the beginning that if it does like top the charts, he'll do a performance naked or something live on Christmas Day.
Yeah. And he's supposed to be at this party with Elton John and whatnot.
Yeah, super well, and he's getting everything. He was all successful.
And he ends up just going back to hang out with his producer, bro.
Yeah, who he has been like just dunking on most of the movie.
Yeah, he's like, look, while I was there, I wanted to not be there. I wanted to be here. Do you want to just get pissed drunk and watch porn?
Which I won't lie. It's a little gay. Which is chill.
The thing that I'm confused by, I don't know if it's truly gay.
That's the thing. It's
or if it's just rock starry. Yeah, fuck it. We're just gonna go for it.
One thing I can say, it's like this movie's pretty heteronormative for the most part.
Yeah.
But like there are some moments where you're like,
okay, but is it not though? It's and is that 2003 versus 2022?
Yeah, like, were they 2023? Did they not feel confident depicting this as like a thing they could get away with or whatever?
Yeah. So to me, I read that scene as them just throwing it out, but they're in the weird Hollywood rock star lifestyle. That's how I read it, but it definitely feels like there could be more there. There just wasn't. So overall,
headcanon, people.
Headcanon.
That's what matters.
Overall, I think I like the story because of that end scene. Otherwise, I would have just despised it.
Well, and I think that's like the cool part of a lot of this movie is you have a lot of unlikable characters or sad moments that kind of get resolved well. Like the whole like prologue of this is like literally just references 9/11 because like the idea is like the like simple love of like people meeting their loved ones at an airport is like a big thing, and they make a whole point about 9/11, like all of the people who went down and stuff, like all of the outcalling was like for love, not hate, and all this other stuff like that.
Yeah, it's actually very
which I would say is a very like 2003 to 2007 post 9/11 kind of thing, like
so post 9/11.
Yeah.
It's
like,
one of those
that's very normal for me, but if you're someone who was born a little while after that, like could be that might be a bit of a like thing.
Yeah, like it's funny because having somewhat lived through it, we were very young during 9/11. We understand what the vibe of movies were for that kind of period.
Well, it's like, I was in like kindergarten for 9/11, but I grew up post 9/11. Like that was a very, there was definitely different thing. And
it was very weird to like get thrown back into that kind of mentality.
In 2022, like
right out the gate.
2023.
Yeah. Just
I know, like,
yeeted
I
through
feel like
time.
that's the thing I always forget with this. I go back and watch it, I'm like, oh, yeah, right.
Oh, right, 9/11.
But anyway, so...
So that was an interesting one. The next story, it's Andrew Lincoln, Keira Knightley, and the guy whose name I never remember. It's
the character's name, I think.
Either
way, Keira Knightley's getting married to a guy who's not the protagonist of this story, who is the best man, who's recording the wedding.
Yeah, so the best man, Super Bros.
This is also a bit of a hub one, like short,
the
because
wedding.
A lot of people that are in the next like set of shorts are at this wedding.
Yeah,
which is fun.
So we have this wedding, super fun, like musicians like stand up in every part of the piers or whatever.
Everything goes well.
We have Andrew Lincoln's character filming throughout the entire endeavor.
He's the best man at this wedding,
and he apparently notoriously does not get along with the bride-to-be become wife. And later, it's something where she's asking for like the footage, the tape, whatnot, and like trying to bring a peace offering of like, here's a pie. I have a terrible taste in pie, so I'm glad that you like. He's like, yeah, I don't want it. He's like, oh, Kira's, oh, thank God you don't, because I have no idea if this is gonna be good. I have a horrible taste. But they end up finding, and by they I mean Kira literally like looks for 2 seconds, finds the footage of that wedding, and it's just like, oh, perfect, it's right here. While he's trying to play it off like, oh, it's been lost, I have no idea, I'm gonna have to clean or whatever. When it plays, it turns out he's been filming her the entire way through the wedding.
Yeah, and it's like
only Keira Knightley's character. She's kind of like dumbfounded by this, like, oh, I thought you hated me. And he's like, no.
It's the exact opposite.
Oops. And then the story ends with him, like, after that, yeah. It's honestly probably one of the most memorable scenes of the entire movie. To me, it feels dated. It feels very like stalkery-ish kind of behavior, but there is a caveat to it, in that one of the slides in what I would call a traditionally very romantic thing, he very explicitly says, like, I'm expecting nothing to come of this, but on Christmas you gotta be truthful. I kind of like you, but next time we meet, maybe I'll be dating one of these hot, sexy models or whatever, and like living my best life. So anyway, thought I ought to let you know. It's a little weird. It's a little...
Is it a little too relatable, Jordan? Do you have personal
experience? Part of me feels like this is either acting or writing related, but I didn't buy him liking her. I thought that he liked his best friend who got married to her. That's where I thought it was. And that might be... we watched it in today's age and not back then.
I mean, I think that's like, it was the whole, like, it's like with The Matrix. There's a lot of takes on it. Like, honestly, I never thought of it when you said it. It's like, yeah, no, I could see that.
Right. It's just the two of them were very buddy.
I don't
buddy,
know
and then,
how intentional that really is. Like, maybe it was, maybe it wasn't.
Like, is it we're setting you up to think one way and then course correct the other kind of thing? Yeah, I'm not sure. The part that I think led my suspicions the greatest is he talks with another character from one of the other stories who's like, do you like him? And he's like, no. And I didn't buy that as him actually denying it. I bought that as him being in denial of it. So that's an interesting one. It's also kind of like stalkery, creepy for the end thing, but it's appreciated by Keira Knightley's character. I think
it's pretty sweet and innocent, but that's just me.
I think
stalkers like unknowingly follow you around a Target taking candid photos of you. Like, it's definitely like, I get it with the camera thing. I can understand if people find that slightly creepy. I get that. I respect. But like, he was supposed to be there and doing that. It just ended up that way because he's in love with her. And it's a hard thing because like it really is one of those like hard things when you're into a girl or something like that of like, you really gotta be careful with that kind of stuff. But
yeah, putting it another way, Andrew Lincoln's character is very much like bros before hosing it the way through, if you want to use that phrase. Like he's like, you know what, I'm gonna take the L, I'm gonna give you space. And that's like, it almost feels like if there were a longer movie, and again, I'm not like shitting on the format of this movie, I'm thinking that the story can make more sense. I just don't think it made enough sense for what they were going for me in this day and age. But I think it could very well be the case where it's like he pushed her away or was being no because he's drawing the line for himself. And
it's like
it's made more clear.
Is me acting in self-preservation because he's like, I don't want to.
Yeah. And
very much like overcompensating.
Yeah, and the fact that in the cards that he says, you know, next time we see each other, we're going to be in completely different places. I hope you guys have the best. Bye. And then she kisses him. I don't know about the kiss, but that's yeah. That one's a little bit tougher. I like it more than the Billy Mark one on the whole. I think that
it does feel better on the whole.
Yeah, it feels more wholesome to me. The next one is we have Colin Firth being an author, a writer. He finds out that his girlfriend is.
It starts with he's being told by his wife or girlfriend to go to Keira Knightley and what's his face's wedding alone because she's feeling ill.
Yeah. So he goes to leave. When he's back at the at their place of residence, turns out she's cheating on him.
With his brother.
So he leaves for France.
Believe so. It's his like cottage.
Yeah.
Basically.
He gets away. Somebody greets him and says, "Hey, we've hired a housekeeper who will help with stuff as you're going through your writing phase or whatever." The housekeeper doesn't speak English or French or what else did they try? Italian.
Yeah.
Like they have a language barrier, and even though they still understand each other enough as they're going through things.
Emotional connection, you know.
Yeah, they slowly get it's not even I wasn't gonna say flirty. It's like a situation.
Yeah.
Like they get very domestic.
Exactly. They get into their routine and they like it. It's a very like, you know, like learning through like
repetition.
Experiences.
Yeah.
Very experience based thing. They just find each other charming through like silly little things and Colin Firth's character being a goof.
Yeah, and so like he drives her home after the day's end every day. She knows, like, he has multiple phones. She knows which phone is ringing and gives it to him. Brings out like tea or coffee or whatever it is. Those kinds of things. There's a scene where he's riding outside by like a little pier at the lake or whatever. She goes to bring him something to drink and then like goes to lift the cup. Suddenly all the papers fly off. I feel like the scene goes a little bit overboard given what I think the story was trying to like. I think they had a quota of we need a sexy shot happen. So she, in trying to get these half-written pages back to him that have like fallen into the lake, strips to her underwear and just yeets in to go get all the pages. the conversation's hilarious in that
because she can't understand Colin Firth. He's like, no, just leave it, don't. But she's just like off like a dog, like a beagle in water.
Yeah, while he's like, she's like, these pages better be freaking worth it. And he's like, oh, they're not. This is not Shakespeare. So cool. Like, just leave it. They're terrible. Oh my god, it's freezing. So they have a sweet like they're both like getting warm, like blanket and warm drinks afterward or whatever. And he's like, dude, I will totally happily name a character after you for what you've done. You're incredible. She like charades the way through figuring out what kind of book it is. Like, is it romantic? Yeah. Is it comedy? Is it and he's like, no, it's like horror. But, you know, honestly, the thing that's the most horrific is my writing. So after all of this, the trip comes to an end. She goes back home to Portugal, and he goes back home to, I was going to say Bristol in particular, but definitely Britain. I don't know what
somewhere
part.
In Britannia.
Somewhere in Britannia. When he gets there, he starts taking language classes so that he can learn Portuguese. And
he's in love.
Because he's in love. And he ends up going out to see her, and he finds her parents' house or whatever, knocks on the door, is just like, hi, I'm here to propose my hand, her hand in marriage or whatever for your daughter. And so the dad like turns around.
Awful.
Yeah, it's all half broken. It's very fun for the translation of it. The dad like turns around to call his daughter, and then out comes this other, you know, not clearly the person he's looking for, that is a little bit on the heavier side. Lots of fat jokes. Jesus.
Yeah.
Like,
this random character who has said and done nothing.
Shoved up. Literally 2 seconds.
All right. We just got this person to dunk on, apparently. Like,
yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Especially like, when her dad does it. It's like, homie.
Yeah. And it one of the lines was like, the Dunkin' Donut, Miss Dunkin' Donut of 2003. Yeah. I was just like, oh my god. Jesus. So
put as much effort into your jokes as your workout routine, you wouldn't be here, but
it's like, oh my god.
Jeez.
Yeah. So they
pay no mind.
They go through they go through the town. Literally all of the townsfolk follow him as he goes to the restaurant that she's working at as a waitress, where he terribly proposes in Portuguese, and she responds in English because she's been learning English as well. Because
she is also hello.
Yeah, very meet cutie, what have you. Wonderful, fun.
All the more fuzzies.
And then the whole like restaurant is cheering and clapping, as well as all of the townspeople or whatnots. Honestly, this is one of my more favorite stories of the lot. I'd put it, honestly, like, aside from the fat shaming that just got thrown in, it felt like, I think that this one is, like, top 3 of the 9, perhaps?
I think it's one of the more fun as far as, like, the development of the relationship, because you get to see it more montagey over time, and, like, this is definitely one of the standouts to me.
Yeah.
Like, this is definitely one I feel like you could do an actual entire movie about.
Yeah. Following that, we have the Alan Rickman, Emma Thompson story with the person who I will describe as, like, was it Aubrey Plaza and Audrey Hepburn had a child in 2003?
Yeah.
Or something. Like,
fair.
Right.
Second, third.
So... Alan Rickman is the boss man at insert business, like a marketing
design firm or something.
Yeah, something.
Business, why business is performed.
He's in charge, but frankly, he seems, one, like a good dude, and
wife, 2 kids.
And he seems like a cool boss as well, because like he has a one-on-one with a character for a different story, saying everyone knows that you're in love with them, Like, that's it. That's the end of the story. Everyone knows you should just go make a move.
Mr. Potter.
Do it. Nudge, nudge. Here's your hint. Do your thing. He ends up slowly having an affair with the secretary. Frankly, I think because the actors just acted the hell out of it, I think that's what carries this entire story. Because if it was actors that I don't think did a good performance, this very well could have fallen apart into Alan Rickman's character is just the asshole, end of story, and the story is just like completely broken and falls apart.
This is probably also where the funniest part of this movie is when at one point Alan Rickman's character is trying to buy a necklace for his secretary.
Yeah.
Who wanted to ask for a Christmas gift.
While they're shopping at the mall when he's with his wife and whatnot. And
he's trying to do it on the DL because they're like separate.
Yeah, so he's like, that one, how much is it? It's expensive. Okay, cool. Yes, and then this is where Rowan Atkinson just is here. Suddenly you've got Mr. Bean, the man, the myth, the magic.
That screen time work.
So, in very Mr. Bean fashion, has very physical comedy.
It's like ritual of gift wrapping.
Yeah.
Like, this man is apparently like a level 1 transmutation wizard over here.
Yeah.
Like, prepping his Find Familiar spell.
It's fun. To me, I think it drags just a little bit, and that might be because I have been soiled by the internet and YouTube and really tight editing. And I think that's a medium mismatch for me. I still think it's very, like, the premise of it is very funny, and they have a sequel of sorts, like a 15-minute short where we follow these characters for Red Nose Day for like
an epilogue.
Yeah, and when they did it again for that, I thought it was a lot funnier, and there was a lot more editing and stuff that. Yeah, whatever. So I think that's something where I think the editing of the time versus the editing of what I would expect as just a modern day consumer is an unfortunate mismatch. But I still think it's funny. It's still funny.
Everything Jordan says is wrong. It's fucking hilarious. God, yeah.
Uh-huh. So, love, actually.
Hello,
So,
totally.
So Alan Rickman gets this gift, and it's found in his pocket, and his wife is like, oh, like, he got me something that, like, is like a big deal or whatever. Wow, I can't believe he would do that kind of thing.
I think the joke is he's kind of a terrible gift giver. That I believe that is like, a reference at points. So she's like, ooh.
Yeah, one of the things that they say is like, oh yes, I got another scarf or something like that. And he ends up getting her
a Joni Mitchell CD.
Yeah.
Which was this thing that we used to put in what was called a CD player, and it had music on it. And you would just have one album. It would just play that album.
So for the hipster vintage collector folks, records, a smaller record.
Yeah. A compact disc.
That's the other way to phrase it. So she gets the CD. It's in like the same shape of box that the necklace would have been. So she got her hopes up, and then it immediately shatters when, like, this is the last gifts before they head out for the night. So she collects herself. She, like, goes into the other room, into the bedroom, and is just, like, teary because it dawns on her, like,
who is the necklace for?
The necklace went to somebody else.
It is really heartbreaking, actually. It's a tough scene.
Emma crushes it. So after this, they have a school play that they go to for another character's story entirely. Actually, multiple characters is plural. She sees her brother, who happens to be the prime minister, but that's beside the point. She sees her brother and is just like, you have no idea what it means for you to be here for our kids' play. Like, oh my gosh, like, I didn't think you would show up at all. You never do. This is weird, but thank you. And then she and Alan Rickman have a heart-to-heart, and he's like, well, what's the matter, dear? And she's just heart on the floor, like, lays it all out. Like, what do you expect? How would you react if you were in this situation where you find out your significant other is giving a necklace to somebody that isn't you? And are they giving it for love? Is it for sex? Is it love and sex? Is everything over? And what's the deal with the kids or whatever? And he's like, I've made a fool of myself. I've made a fool of you. I'm an asshole. Jeez, God, I suck. Is kind of like the takeaway. But let me be clear. The performance is really good, though. So you do feel like he's genuinely like, shit, I messed up so bad. But before they can like get really into it, she goes like full mom mode, just looks over at the kids who are like, Mom, we did it, or whatever, and like run up, and she just switches gears so instantaneously, and I'm so proud, while very clearly like holding back tears. It's so,
putting her own stuff, it's like her family's there, man.
It's so palatably heartbreaking.
It pretty much just ends at that point. Like, there's not like a further resolution, at least to this. Yeah, that's where we leave them.
Left. So after that, we have the prime minister, who I really like this story. I think this is my second favorite for me. And it's the newly elected prime minister is getting acquainted with his new title in office. Everyone makes a very strong point of the fact that, prime ministers prior have had relationships. This one is not in a relationship, and that's weird to them. And he goes and like meets his staff, and there's one member, Natalie, who he looks back or like double takes and is just like, oh shit, oh no, I like her kind of thing. I forget what he says. It's very British. He's like, oh, that's awfully inconvenient or something like that.
So inconveniently in love with her.
Yeah, so with their like back and forth, they get to know each other a little bit as time goes along. Again, there's weird fat shaming that just is thrown at Natalie, and very unjustly.
Yeah.
Like, Jesus. And as it goes along, we get the prime minister having like a very official diplomatic meeting. It's the first visit of the president of the United States. They do the full and
the president kind of a turd wrangler, that guy.
And what ends up happening is he like steps out of the room for a moment. Natalie's in there helping, and the president's like whispering in her ear, and it's a little like weird, creepy, what have you. The president up to this point has made it very clear that like, I get what I want, I do what I want.
Made some very toxic and troublesome comments.
Yeah, both politically and like interpersonally.
In general.
Yeah, he's kind of a dick. And the prime minister, having seen how he was acting with Natalie, the two of them like go to like hold a press briefing. Natalie's like off in the corner or whatever. The president's like, yeah, this was a very like fantastic meeting, and everything went smoothly and as I expected, and I expect everything to go as well as we would hope. And the prime minister's like, you know what, fuck that. I'm going to say screw you, and we're going to stand our ground. Britain is strong, and damn it, we're going to abide by that. We're not going to get bullied because we're smaller than the States, who gets to bully all the people. And everyone's like, and literally like every story is people like cheering on the fact that Britain's just like, yeah, screw you. So after this, the prime minister's like riding a little bit of a high, and has like a very fun dance scene but he realizes like this isn't a professional thing. What would people say or think or do or what have you? So he like has one of the other office people come in and is just like, hey, do you know Natalie, right? She's like, yeah, another fat joke. Jesus. I don't even like
why. I don't even
just
understand.
needlessly ruthless. Like I really wish there was a version of this short story where there's like a very clear animosity between them for just to justify, at the very least, make it a character thing. But it just feels like fat joke for fat joke's sake. I'm like, damn it. Anyway, he goes, okay, uncalled for. Rightfully so.
This is happening.
Yeah, and the Prime Minister just goes, look, can you redistribute Natalie?
He's kind of gotten the wrong idea of what happened between her and the president.
Yeah, there's a little bit of like lingering resentment-ish, a little bit, and also I also think there's a little bit of like that. We got to keep things proper. He
doesn't want the power dynamic thing, and
yeah, rightfully so. So he starts going through later on, going through like Christmas cards and greetings, and he gets a card. It's from Natalie saying, hey, sorry about, the rubbish that happened between me and the president. Nothing happened. I didn't like it. Just so you know, I'm forever yours, Natalie. And he is ecstatic.
He's in the low.
So he ends up getting into the he gets chauffeured around town. At some point she made a comment about like where she lives.
Street.
Yeah, he knows the street. It's a sketchy part of town or something. So she had just like recently broken up with her boyfriend, so she's living with her parents. And he goes like doorstep to doorstep.
And he's like covering like, what do you think, to like these random people.
So he's like, hi, does Natalie live here? And everyone's like, no. And then there's like kids that are like, oh my gosh, are you Christmas carolers? So they start singing a Christmas carol, which is very like that. I thought was very funny. He ends up knocking on Mia's door, the mistress that Alan Rickman is cheating with, what have you, in his story. Does Natalie live here? And she goes, no. And he's just, oh, all right, well. And she goes, she lives next door. And he's like, oh. Ding dong, knock knock, what have you. The door opens. There's a million people because
whole fam jam.
Because Christmas time, whatnot.
It's Christmas.
She's standing at the very top of the stairs and just like, oh. They like have a conversation over each other about like, oh, I need Natalie for state business. Yes. And everyone's like, well, our kid has a show at the school and whatever and whatnot. So, and, we've spent months working on like his octopus costume or I don't know.
The whole thing.
Yeah, they make a big huff and a puff and they end up taking some of the family via car to the school affairs. So the prime minister of the country is speaking with the reassigned secretary over the head of this kid in an octopus costume.
In the loom.
I thought it was more, to me, endearing than it was actually funny. Again, I think that this has a lot of campy heart to it, and I like that more than the actual, like, what I feel is meant to be just purely comedy. The part that made me laugh was the fact that the kid is super awkward, and the moment they're at the school, he's like, we're here, and just like gets up in their business so that he can get out of the car ASAP. Because that third wheeling, that hurts. So the Prime Minister and Natalie, the two of them are going behind the scenes at the school. It's apparently her school, so she knows it very well. He runs into his sister, who's there, and dealing with the fact that the fact that Alan Rickman is cheating on her. So, like, there's a sweet moment between the two. She also makes fat comments, but in a more positive light, saying like, oh, you watch him because you're totally like his type through all of school. No, like seriously though, watch him, as she walks away while they're totally like there on the fact that they want to have a romantic relationship. After music performance and stuff, we'll touch that later. After music performance and whatnot for the school play goes down, the curtain comes up saying Merry Christmas, and the two of them are making out behind the curtain. There's a fun like montage lead up to it before this reveal, and everyone's like, oh.
Yeah, the Prime Minister.
And the Prime Minister is just like, well, so much for keeping things secret. And now he's like, what do we do? And he basically pulls out just a card from Madagascar and just goes, just smile and wave, boys. Just smile and wave.
All according to plan.
Yeah. Which was just incredible. And then after that, we'll touch the follow-up conclusion later. Going for the next story. This one might be my favorite. So we have Liam Neeson.
Qui-Gon Jinn!
Let's go! Yeah! We have Liam Neeson, who has unfortunately had his wife pass away. His wife, Joanna, died. It was led up to expected. There's a big funeral scene where apparently she had at least a little bit of a sense of humor, because the song literally just keeps saying like goodbye while everyone is like trying to keep tears in, kind of thing. And he's now, I don't want to say stuck with, that's not the right word. He's now a single father of his stepson, and is really struggling with the grief of losing his wife, or for his son Sam's case, Sam's mother. And I mean, there is just one of the more heartbreaking moments. He's friends with Emma Thompson's character, who I think is Karen is the name. Anyway, they're really close friends. She's there to support him, and just mid freaking conversations, he just breaks down, and holy crap, it got me. That was so raw. Freaking Liam Neeson, my guy. So as this goes along, he's talking about how Sam has become a little bit more reclusive. He's worried about Sam. He's like, you know, he could be doing heroin for all I know. And she's like, he's 11. He's like, and basically, so
give up on the streets.
so they go on a walk. They're kind of at the pier by the river. They sit down on the bench, and he's like, Sam, how you holding up, bud? And Sam responds, I'll be honest, it's not going good. And he's like, oh no, what's going on? Like, what's wrong? Tell me, you can tell me what you need to tell me. And he goes, it's quite tragic, I'm afraid. I'm in love. And he goes, oh, thank God. It could have been so much worse.
Delivery too is just,
it's so good. This is where the comedy really landed for me.
It seems like he buys it so much.
Yeah. So they have this back and forth conversation like, okay, you're in love. Who are you in love with? There's this American girl named Joanna, which the fact that they have the same name, I think, was a little bit weird, but you know, whatever. So there's this American girl, Joanna. I'm in love with her. She doesn't know who I am. So they like have this full like they have this wonderful dynamic where the dad is like playing wingman to his 11-year-old kid, and the kid is also like involved in like checking on the dad's love life as well. At some point, Sam walks in and he's just like, oh, it's horrible. She doesn't even know who I am. And Liam's response is, we need Leo, and we need Kate, and we need them now, and immediately goes to watch Titanic with his son, where you have Leo DiCaprio and Kate Winslet just doing the full like Titanic, I can fly, Jack, I'm flying, or whatever. And he's like, are you flying, Sam? And he's like, I'm flying, Daddy. He's like, big mistake. Throws him into the couch. Just every freaking scene with the two of them is so much fun.
Awesome dynamic.
Yes. And what follows is Sam's like, oh no, the part of the lead up for the Titanic thing is Joanna doesn't know that I exist, and she's going back home to America in the near future. I'm gonna miss the plan is I'm going to learn how to play music because chicks like music, and she's also a musician, and we have the school performance or whatnot.
And I'm going to wow her.
Yeah. So poor Liam just like puts up with his son learning drums over just montage of him just being like, oh no, the whole way through.
Get somewhere.
Yeah.
Slowly.
So eventually we go to the school, and during the performance, it's really great because they're doing All I Want for Christmas Is You by Mariah Carey, where the girl that Sam has a crush on...
No, you cannot escape it.
No, the ever-pervasive Christmas song. The girl that Sam has a crush on is singing the song, and this was something that I found out in like some of the behind-the-scenes-y type stuff. Apparently, she was such a good singer, they had to like make her worse after the fact because it wasn't believable that she's, like 11 through 13.
It always really blew my mind how good this girl was at singing.
She would have actually been better, and they had to like bring it in.
Hilarious.
Right? So during this performance, like one of the really like blink and you'll miss it moments, during the phrase all I want for Christmas is you, she points at Sam. Sam has a smile. She goes, and you, and points to other people, and cuts back to Sam. He's throwing a pouty face. It's so good. The Prime Minister reveal happens. We go to like afterwards, they're in like the hallway or whatever, and Liam, super proud of his boy, is just like, yeah, Joanna, or, yeah, Sam, you crushed it. Joanna did fantastic, whatever. Like, it was awesome. One of the other moms, like for this performance, whatever, a fun fact, the mom is played by the model that Liam mentions earlier in the movie, because he's like, yeah, I don't know if I'm past my like love prime, unless whatever the name of the model was. I'll be honest, I forgot. Unless it's her, in which case we're gonna have sex everywhere, in your room, on the floor, in the kitchen, like. And he's just like, or whatever. It again.
Oh, I didn't mean.
They have a great dynamic. It's so good. Liam meets this mom, like at this school function, who is played by insert model there. So, after this, we find out that Joanna is going straight to the airport to fly home. And Sam's like, and Liam's like, we gotta make sure you get your shot. So, he gets him into the car. He's like, I know a shortcut to the airport. They rush it over as quick as can be. When they get to the airport, they don't have a boarding pass, so they can't get in through security, which... Again, very like 2000s, early 2000s, like culture shock of what security happens in TSA being a thing, because before you could just hang out at the gate. It's really funny, just as a complete aside, thinking of a world where that's the case.
Yeah.
And like we're here in Colorado. Denver has like this massive area where it's basically like an indoor mall that was converted into giant security lines.
Yep.
And it's weird to think that like, no, people would like go there and hang out and stuff.
Yeah, chill.
Wow.
Like there was never a time where I didn't have that.
Yeah.
Every time I flew.
So anybody older than us feel old because we've never known pre 9/11 airport.
It's always been that way.
Yeah. So they go to the airport. They're blocked because they don't have a boarding pass, and it's like, and it's like momentarily heartbreaking because they're not allowed past. And so Liam and
got this.
Yeah, Liam's character and Sam, they're talking to each other like, what are we gonna do? Rowan Atkinson shows up out of freaking nowhere as the like salesman person,
like a Christmas miracle.
Is like shuffling through things, and Liam just looks at his kid and he's like, look, Sam, I don't think there's any way you're gonna, get to have your moment with Joanna unless you make a break for it. Oh. So he just books it. We have this montage of just all the security guards trying to keep up with this 11-year-old, which is in itself very funny.
Yeah.
And yeah, and then at like the final bag check before the plane proper, he's pounding on the glass. He sees Joanna in the distance. It's like, Joanna! And she can't hear him. So he rushes down. Once he's at that final security check, it just so happens that the rock star Billy Mack is like getting naked on TV, and so everyone is distracted watching that. So the kid just sneaks on by and says, "Joanna, I like you." He gets escorted out by just all the security. He's only brought as far as the boarding area. This is also something where I was like, I feel like if this were in the States, then that kid would be like brought in for questioning. But thank goodness it's in Britain, because he was just brought back outside of the the entryway or whatever. Liam's still standing there, and he's just like, so Sam, how'd it go? He's like, turns around, Joanna like has followed him out and is just like, hi Sam. There's a cute moment where he goes to talk to Joanna, and she goes, Sam? And he's like, you know my name? And she's like, of course I do. What? So once he's back with Liam, Joanna comes out, they reunite. She basically is like, I like you too, gives him a kiss on the cheek, a little peck. And that's the extent that we see for that. 10 out of 10. For me, this is my favorite story of the lot. But there are absolutely other contenders, because this movie as a whole is fantastic. There's lots of great short stories in this. So that's the Liam Sam story. Next one. Alan Rickman has like a little heart-to-heart with one of his employees named Sarah. Sarah very abundantly clearly has a crush on Carl, one of the other people at the office, and Alan Rickman's just like, everyone knows, even Carl knows, so everyone dreadfully knows. It's getting quite annoying. You need to get this over with, because
also having a Christmas party. So Sarah at the Christmas party is approached by Carl. She doesn't approach him, which was like multiple points where she could have, and just like goes and just like crumples in on herself. He approaches her at the party and is just like, hey, want to dance? So they start to like have a normal dance, and then the music is just cut halfway through and it goes to slow dance music. So they have a very like sweet, tender, slow dance. It's very nice. And after that, we get the like, all right, goodbye. Like he clearly escorted her home, and he's going to leave, but then she like has him like stay and comes in or whatever. They kiss, they make out. It's about to get into like proper sexy time territory. There's a running joke, and this is very early 2000s, of her cell phone is the Nokia theme. So as they're like right in the heat of the moment kind of thing, she's already like cleaned up the room just to make it that much more presentable or whatever. It's a classic.
Yeah. The last second, like, don't come in yet. Nokia phone ring goes off, and she like reluctantly answers the phone. Hold on, I gotta take this. hi, and it's her brother. And she mentions to Carl, like, yeah, my brother's been struggling or whatever. So, very notably, she says, no, I'm not busy. Both times that because he calls again as they're about to get back into it after the mood killing happens. She picks up again, starts talking with him again, and it's made pretty clear that Carl doesn't engage with Sarah for like the rest of it, and the story kind of like has this big shift where she ends up going to a mental health facility where her brother is, and he has something.
Yeah, we're not really told.
No, like at one point he goes to like take a swing at her, and she expectedly stops the punch, and one of the security people or whatever's or doctors comes out to like stop it. Yeah, and it's made clear that like she's taking care of her brother, and we get another scene later where it's like Christmas time proper. She's there with her brother again. They're hugging each other. It is very sweet. The big thing for me where I feel like this fell short slightly is that I kind of wish I had more lead up to the brother aspect. Like I wish there was a little bit more of the foreshadow. We do get the phone ringing, but we don't get much context beyond the phone rings, and that's something where I feel like this really could have just floored me, but it didn't quite hit it there because I felt like I was like just socked out of nowhere. It's still really, really good. I think it's there's 9 of these stories, good lord. Like maybe tied for 4th of the 9.
I think this is the best one. This is actually my favorite. I really enjoy it. I thought it was very cool as far as like because up until this point, like everything has pretty much gone to plan somewhat. There's obviously the Alan Rickman thing, but I really enjoy that, and I kind of like, because it's not that she couldn't have a relationship, I think, somewhat, but like I think part of it too is she doesn't want to get intimate, and she kind of uses that as somewhat of a pass, because like it's also complicated when you're dealing with something like that and things like that. But I kind of enjoy that kind of interpersonal part about it, and Carl's bad about it too in a way, so I kind of think it's fun how they play with that.
Yeah, and I will say my favorite part of the story is the fact that it goes from like giddy school crushy type of love to what I think the point was, and that is like true familial love, unconditional, no bars pulled or whatever I'm trying to say, like just cut straight to the bone kind of thing. And that's what I really appreciate of the story. I just related to some of the other ones. Well, and maybe this is probably one of the biggest credits to this film. There's a little bit of something for literally everybody.
Well, it's like any anthology, right? People always argue what's your best one or whatever. But.
Yeah, unless it's Tales from Ba Sing Se. There is only one right answer for Avatar: The Last Airbender. There is one right answer. It's Iroh. Iroh's the best. End of story. So, yeah. This one's up there. This is your favorite.
Yes.
The next one... I didn't like this one. This one, I have called the frat boy arc. So we have this character who's with his mate, and neither of them can get girls out in Britain.
They've tried, especially this guy in particular, has tried to hit on multiple girls from other stories, and it has not worked out.
Yeah, throughout the entirety of this thing. And his conclusion is that he ain't got no shot in Britain, but he has an accent. And because he has an accent, he's going to be especially appealing to American girls. So he's going to fly to America
for Christmas
and hit on some girls in America.
Make that work, apparently.
Yeah. And it works.
I think that's the thing. It's like, I think this is a good short, but it's such a piss off that it works.
It instantly works.
Like,
It literally, he gets out of the taxi, or he gets into a taxi, and he's just like, take me to a bar. And the guy's like,
Wisconsin.
Yeah. So they just go to a bar, and there's one girl who's immediately like, oh my God, are you from Britain? And
God.
And to me, I feel like this is meant to be funny. I don't think it's funny enough to make it work as this is the comedy relief section of movie.
I'm not really sure where the punchline comes in.
Accents are attractive.
It's just a statement, though, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it's just observational comedy without the comedy part.
Yeah, it's very weird. It's very strange.
It's there.
Yeah, and it also, to me, I think it drags a little bit, where it's like, oh my God, you're from Britain, you should meet my roommate. And the roommate comes over and is just like, oh my God, you're from Britain? That's fantastic. And then you should see our other roommate. She's totally into British guys. And then the third person comes in and is like, oh my God, you're from Britain? And they have apparently a good night. We skip that part entirely to just, oh my gosh, it's super late and we're like drunk and, you know, we're going to go home. And he's like, and they're like, well, where are you staying tonight? And he's like, dude, I just got here. I don't know where I'm going to stay. I just flew in from Britain. And they're like, well, you can come stay with us. And we only, you know, it's really cold and we're poor and we only have one bed between the lot of us. But you would really like, what is it, Harriet or whatever?
Yeah.
Harriet, who's also like in our bed. And so they go to whatever place they're staying, and you see the shadows of them having an orgy, essentially.
No, they're wrestling, Jordan.
They're wrestling.
That's what adults do.
WWE.
Yeah.
They're doing some chess boxing up there. So, yeah. And that's where that story ends. 0 out of 10.
It exists. Onwards.
If it wasn't for the Billy Mark like final thing, it would be tying for last place. Billy Mack's the radio star story has like a great conclusion proper that redeems a lot of the stupidity of it for the good chunk of it. This one, to me, does not have that. 0 out of 10.
It exists.
I would not care if it was removed from the entirety. Next one, funnily enough, also very adult. We have Martin Freeman playing as the protag of this short one. He and the actress he's working with are body doubles for the porn industry, and they're just like having genuine conversation
while miming wrestling. Yeah.
And
they are simulating a certain act.
Is it funny?
I think it's pretty. I think the thing is, the situation is funny, but it's really sweet, the conversations they're having, because like Martin Freeman makes a whole point of like, it's just so nice to have somebody you can, you know, just chat with, as she's simulating
BJ.
Yeah. A little Ben and Jerry's.
It's
not sponsored.
Yeah. I feel like
I enjoy their dynamic, and I think the situation is fun. That's about
I think it's funny for like the first or second time. I think it happens too much, but I do.
The guy who thinks the prequels memes are still funny.
They are. There are some strange form of evolutionary comedy. So I feel like with their dynamic, I would have actually liked to have seen them just be in a normal setting outside of work things. And the first time that we get that is like the resolution of the story. And that's, I think, my problem with it is I think it's played like more for comedy.
8 of that, though. 7 of that. Ignoring Frat Boy. I think it's fun. I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun little.
Yeah. Maybe another way to phrase it. I think that the way that it's interspersed throughout the rest of this film makes it work better than if it were taken in isolation. I think in isolation, it almost, I'm not going to say doesn't work. It would work way less if it was just the porn star coupling body doubles romance. But because it's shot in a way that I think it's made to be funny for like the shock factor when it pops up, but then you have their, like, they're getting to know each other dynamic. I think that's something that it's edited in the midst of things more as a comedic relief part.
Yeah, but like that, it is a part of a whole.
Yeah. So that one's...
Also, I think it's hilarious as they're talking and you have the camera shots like shooting back down and forth from the different perspectives. He's looking down at her and she's looking up at him.
Yeah.
Like, that to me is a lot of the comedy of the scene.
Yeah. For me,
yes,
I would put this as like my tie for fourth, I think. And I think it's something where the problem that I have with it is that I think in terms of how it was like structured or built around, I think there's something that, and again, things are very subjective. I think I would have done it differently for how I would have liked to have seen it play out, much like with Sarah and her brother. And that's not to say that it's bad, because I do think it is a good and like delightfully wholesome story in the situation of being like porn actors that are like there to work and they are just working. It's very interesting. So yeah. And then the final thing before like the epilogue, Mr. Bean shows up twice. It was pretty cool. More Bean. More Rowan Atkinson.
Apparently, originally, he was supposed to be like the Christmas angel in one of the original scripts, but that got wrote out eventually.
Oh, but could you imagine if he were...
Which, I think, like, I totally agree where you're going, but I get it too, where it's like, all right, we have 9 stories here already.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah. Hear me out. We drop the frat boy, we throw in Mr. Bean. Yeah. that would be my... If I were to remake this movie,
apparently they were really connected with that one. I'm not really.
If I wanted a wish list thing, yeah,
he comes back in the weird sequel. So
yeah, so
take it and run.
So with all this, we have the epilogue, which is where a lot of this movie, like, it already like came together at this school play junction. That's where the vast majority of people come back. The epilogue is basically like the cast like come out for Bao's send-off of sorts, where you have each of them like bumping into each other. Some people that haven't even seen each other like since the wedding towards the beginning of the movie, which is even like more fun. Oh wow, we're all connected kind of thing. So we see Alan Rickman like goes and meets with Emma Thompson, and there's still like, I think, a little bit of animosity between the two of them, but some time has passed, so whatever.
We're very
wounds
much
are
at the
healed
same. I don't buy that. I think we're very much still at that same like, just not seem over it.
I wouldn't say they're recovered. Like, there's still a scar, but I think it's healed. Now
that's you.
All right.
That's this side of the room. That's red shirt talk. I'm on the blue shirt talk.
I just felt like there was a little bit of like their butting heads earlier in their relationship, so I read that as they're still butting heads, but right, it's not.
You're wrong, Jordan, and I always want you to exercise.
So there's that. We have like the Prime Minister. Sorry. The epilogue is at an airport, which ties back into like airport, that. In fact. Yeah, ties into that intro where they're talking about airport, like the unity aspect thing.
The simple love of reuniting with loved ones and family.
All of these folks are presumably coming back from the States. And so we have Alan Rickman comes in. We have like we have Colin Firth comes back in with his now wife, the housemaid / waitress.
Portuguese housemaid.
And they're gushing with Keira Knightley and her husband and Andrew Lincoln. And like they're engaged now, so it's like, oh my god, yeah. We have Martin Freeman and his counterpart, the frat boy. This is where it's like, okay, you're on the right track, but it didn't land for me quite as much as I would have liked it to. The frat boy comes back. He's with an American girl now. One of those. Yep, one of the multiple. And apparently Harriet, I think was her name. Sure. He brings another girl who's from Texas and has a cowboy hat for his mate who was left in Britain.
Just as shocked as we are that it worked.
Yeah, and she immediately goes, "Oh my god, you're also oh my god, you're also from Britain," or whatever, and just immediately gives him a kiss on the lips. It doesn't land. Then we have the prime minister comes back from apparently like a very good negotiation with the states or whatever. And this one I loved because just Natalie just runs up and just wah!
It's very public.
Again, there's a fat joke, but this time I like it because he's like, "Oh, you're very heavy," and she's like, "Oh, shut up." Like, it's a playful one, and it's not mean-spirited, and it does have at least the continuity aspect.
Also, she's fine.
She's fine.
I don't know what anybody... No, I mean, like, she's fine. That's a fine woman right there. Like, I think y'all are just jealous.
We have Liam with his boy Sam. Liam is with the model mom, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then...
student's mom.
Yeah, and then Joanna runs up. It's her and it's Sam. And it's cutesy. Everybody comes back. And that's the epilogue. It's really cool.
Lift it all up in a nice little bow.
So ultimately, like some of the bigger picture things.
Love actually love.
Love Actually is pretty good. With the movie as a whole, we do have a sequel of sorts, which is very, very endearing. And it follows all of the characters 13 years later in, math-wise, 2016, 2017. It's 13 years later.
I guess it's around the Trump presidency.
Yeah. And it's fun to see a lot of, like, 90% of the people that were in the first one are back again. Like, there's
for Red Nose Day.
So it was for raising money for Red Nose Day. There's like a radio dude who's interviewing Billy Mack in the first one at the very beginning. He comes back and has a radio interview again. Like, ooh. They got like some of the same places as well, so you have the same like set. It's
very good, and it's like 15
blew my mind.
So,
super quick. It really is just like here's a kind-hearted thing, but this is really for like fans of this movie. Having watched it immediately after, I was just like, oh, like Leo DiCaprio pointing in the chair or whatever. Very wholesome. I think that Rowan Atkinson working at a Walgreens and like giving a red nose, I think the comedy is even better edited there, because in the midst of this, we also have the pressure of just this massive line that keeps forming like down the block outside of the Walgreens. It's super
just
great.
As funny the second time.
And then Andrew Lincoln's character shows up and does the whole card thing, and it's like, say it's Christmas Carolers except it's May, so they play Christmas music anyway and just keep going with it. Liam, he reunites with Sam, who's 26, and apparently him and Joanna are getting engaged, and Joanna wanted to ask Liam's permission to marry his son or whatever.
Joanna asks for
Liam's permission.
For
Sam's hand in marriage.
Sam's hand in marriage. Thank you.
Yeah. And Liam's like, you know what? I'll think about it, and gives them a big hug and kisses both of them on the foreheads. And she's like, so is that a yes? And he's like, I'm thinking about it. As he's like, just got them both in a headlock, basically. Just such a tight embrace. Again, to me, that it's the best story. Oh, I love it so much. Yeah, the sequel, very, very fun. And then other things. I really do think that this is a movie where it's so cool to see, like, theme above all else without any other motive.
Parts add up into the theme very nicely.
Yeah, it really is. The whole is
it's not like some like anthology where there's like one good part and the other ones are kind of there.
Yeah,
like a loose framing device.
Yeah, the vast majority of this is fantastic. I really do, and it's funny because there's like a graphed chart of what the people's interconnected relationships are with each other. Is it relational? Is it romantic? Is it just like familial? Are they friends? What have you? It also has, to me, it's almost like a good thing that I didn't watch this before doing D&D stuff, because it feels like the way that I run D&D and having NPCs that are all like connected to each other somehow, some way, or storylines that are interwoven with one another. I feel like if I had seen this movie prior to me getting into Dungeons and Dragons and making story arcs and stuff, I would have lost my mind. Like, just explosion of me being inspired by it and just going too far off the edge of the road or whatever. I really do respect and appreciate how it's structured so well. It is by far my favorite part about this whole thing. Another thing I'll say is that it's I really do want to see another movie of this kind of caliber, and ironically, I feel like this is something that this kind of like, here's a multitude of vignettes about this theme, is something that I've inadvertently been doing with some of the like dance shows that I have done for the group that I'm part of, and like even some theater stuff. It's very much that same thing where we have like a general theme, but it's like multiple like one act plays or whatever for my time in theater at DU. Like, it's that kind of thing where I feel like this, I've only seen this attempted in a physical show format, but I don't know if I've seen another movie that's like this in film, and I really want there to be, because it's great. Love Actually. Very wholesome, very sweet. What a great way to cap off the year. Absolutely. So, yeah, do you have any more thoughts? Like,
I mean, this is always one of the movies I watch during Christmas time. I always love it, so I was really happy we got to do it around this time of year.
Yeah.
It's a very sweet story, and sorry.
As he dies.
I'm dying. This is my dying wish that you watch this movie, because it's very good. No. I think it's the perfect kind of romantic movie, in my opinion, because you get a lot of the truer side of it. I'm not going to say it's all perfectly not movie fiction stuff, but yeah, I enjoyed it a lot for its very dissonant tone throughout.
Yeah, it's campy, yet it's real. And frankly, I can't believe that I hadn't seen it up to this point. It's been around long enough. I'm like, I don't know how sure I am, but I'm fairly certain that I've seen the DVD of this somewhere at my parents' house. It's like, it makes sense that it existed somewhere and I just wasn't exposed to it, and I don't know how. Actually, that's not true. It is rated R. That's very reasonably so. So that makes sense. But still, like, yeah, fantastic movie. 10 out of 10. Go see it. That's it. Where can we check you out at?
As always, right here is the main place to be. If you want to see me?
Yeah. That's Narratives and Nonsense. We post on Mondays in the evenings. If you want to see more of me, I'm at Gillidan for the Win, linked in the doobly-doo and then the after or whatever. And at some point, we will be doing some Kingdom Hearts streams, myself and my buddy John. And beyond that, have a fantastic finale to your year, a happy new year, and a happy 2023.
See you in the future.
The future is now.
Yeah,
Wah! Fade into black. Woo!